Teachers of Reddit, what was the juiciest gossip you've heard from students while in the classroom? Oh boy. A girl's mom had been renting out a storage unit and using it to have sex with her daughter's boyfriend. The girl and her BF were only together because the mom suggested it to the boy, so he could hang around her without any questions about it. When it came out, her parents got divorced and her dad died in a drink driving accident a month later trying to cope with it all. Really messed up. My first grader once came to school and told me that daddy drank too much last night and mummy made him sleep in the bathtub. Another told me about the pubic hair grooming habits of her mother. I've never gotten horrible gossip from my young students. But parents, be aware. Your family secrets are not secrets if your young kids know. A couple of weeks ago one of my second graders was crying, so some of the other kids in the class went over and asked what was wrong. Turns out her parents were getting a divorce because her dad was messing around with 4 other women and one of them is having another baby. Those were her exact words. I don't even want to know what else that poor kid had to overhear. The student mentioned that his father went into a classroom with a fellow elementary school teacher after school hours, locked the door, and the student then wandered the halls. Student was later caught bragging to other students that his dad has sex with the teacher. 2 girls in the back of my theater classroom would not stop talking. One of them seemed upset, so I asked them to keep it down. It continued, so I told them more firmly to pay attention. The upset girl promptly freaked out. Said, "What the duck do you want Emmy to do? I'm duck, I'm pregnant." The entire class's mouths dropped and I couldn't think of anything to do but send her to the trauma counselor. Sure enough. Yep. One of my sophomores had a baby the April before she became a high school junior. Not a teacher, but I do volunteer for a middle school. Anyway, one of the students, a 6th grader, had sent a video of herself nude to a boy she liked. The boy had brought his phone to school the next day and showed everybody he talked to. He also had sent it to a group chat that had his whole class. The police had to come to the school to investigate. The girl was taken out of school by her parents, and the boy was expelled. Goddamn. When I was in middle school we only had 2 girls that would make out for $5 with each other. One of my male students left his phone unattended and unlocked around his girlfriend, and she picked it up and started searching through it. What she found was his very male best friend sexting and sending him nudes and talking about how much he loved him, and the BF was texting back and being equally enthusiastic about being in love with him and the 2 of them being together out in the open once they finished school and were in university. She proceeded to screenshot and send all those texts, sexts and nudes to her boyfriend's parents before replacing his phone so he wouldn't know. BF's parents were very conservative. This kid went home to be blindsided thanks to her. And apparently he had to basically flee the house because he was afraid of his father getting physical with him. To follow up, her boyfriend's best friend boyfriend came to school the next day and lost his id on her. She called him disgusting and some other homophobic it. And he got 3 or 4 good punches in before he was restrained, screaming his head off the whole time. My class was the one that let our teacher know that her 37-year assistant had slept with a 16-year on prom night. Student A was talking to student B about a sext Snapchat she received. They both start giggling and talking about the person who sent the sext. It was the newly appointed assistant principal of the high school. Before taking the new position of AP, he was the girls' volleyball coach, boys' baseball coach, and the advisor counselor for the at-risk youth at the high school. Also turns out he was selling weed to the baseball team. Oh. And he had sexual relations with student A when she was 16 years old. I made a CPS report and told the principal. He was fired immediately and student A ended up cooperating with police and pressing charges. Not sure what happened with the court case. I taught 3rd grade and had to take a mix of students with me to dismissal. A former student, let's call him B, was standing near me at dismissal. As his vehicle approaches, one of my current students, let's call him J, waves at the woman driving. I let B in the car and go back to my post. J tells me B's mom is really nice and I ask if they're neighbors or if he plays with B after school. He shakes his head and says, my dad and his mom are friends. They're going to have a baby. I stand there confused, knowing that Jay's parents are married and had just met with me for a conference. He continues, well, we think they are having a baby. But my mom says the lady has a lot of friends and it might be a student from another class. Dad, I hope it's ours. I want a sister. One principal told me that she was dosed LSD by a student, putting 1 or 2 hits in her coffee, and just went about her day as normal. Attended meetings, etc. She was familiar with the experience and didn't need to go home. She waited for another day to discipline him and let him know the legal implications of what he had done and how serious the police would find it if she reported. That principal is ducking gangster lol. My calculus teacher told us about his friend at the school he worked at before mine who got fired for having sex with a student in a dugout in broad daylight. They were found by the baseball coach. I posted this before, but it fits better here. I was in the back of the room looking for something in a cabinet. 2 girls were having a conversation. Oblivious I was there. Girl 1. So they, like, have sex at a party? Girl 2. All the time. It's called swinging. They think I don't know but I found stuff on my dad's computer. Girl 1. That's so weird. Girl 2. Right? I have to go spend next weekend at my grandma's because there's going to be a party at my house. 7th grade girl apparently had 2 dicks in her mouth in one of the back stairwells this year and like 3 kids apparently saw it. One kid showed me a video of 2 female students making out in the bathroom. Not technically gossip, but I figure it fits. Then there's the rather infamous abandoned house down the street where the middle school gangbangers take girls to get high and then tag team them. Low income area gossip. One of my students was asked by another student why the police were in front of her house for several hours the previous night. She responded that it was because her 10-year-old sister had 3 11-13-year-old boys pull guns on each other in her front yard. Apparently they were really serious about winning her over. Some girl hooked up with some other girl's boyfriend and it was totally not cool. Like, you can't just hook up with someone's boyfriend. Like, you know? Like honestly. So frustrating. PSH Shah. Like that's totally not cool. Becky. The juiciest gossip was always about fellow staff. One of my students, 11th grade, came to school and told me she'd ran into my boss in the weirdest situation that weekend. Turned out, my student was dating and sleeping with another student. That second student lived with his mother who had recently separated from the father after the mom was caught cheating. The man she was cheating with was my boss, who was still married. My student had run into him as they were both sneaking out of the same house early on Saturday morning. Turned out to all be true. I teach in an elementary school. We share a PE teacher with a neighboring elementary school. This teacher told me about a group of 5th and 6th graders that all went to a nearby park and had a contest to see who was the best at giving oral. These are kids ranging from 10-12 years old. I would not want to be the administrator that had to make those phone calls home. At my school, there was some whole sexting scandal. 2 kids got into a fight. Kids watching posted it on their Snapchat story. The school's police officer found out and confiscated the phones that were recording it. On those phones, they found a dick pic. Student A, male, sent this to student B, female, and B screenshotted it. After A and B broke up, B sent this to student C, male, who posted this on their story for about 10 minutes before taking this down. Keep in mind all these kids are in 7th and 8th grade. Then, when confiscating all A, capital B, and C's phones, they found screenshots of student D, female, 9th grader, flashing her tits on her Instagram live stream. Then they confiscated her phone, finding a dick pic or student D. The end. Not a teacher. But I heard from one of the seniors that a freshman girl at my school got gangbanged, recorded it, and posted it to the internet. I presume she moved. I was a sophomore, and it was the beginning of the year in drama. This girl got stoned for the first time during lunch and came back way too high. Our drama teacher was cool and pulled her aside and let her hang out in another separate room to sober up. She was having a hard time complying and just sort of laughing uncontrollably while flopping around. The other freshman students from her middle school told me that on the last day of 8th grade she told a group of boys to follow her in the bathroom. She then proceeded to tell all the guys that her dad got a new job in a different state and she would not see them next year. This was then allegedly followed by her taking a hot dog out of her lunch bag, dropping her pants, inserting it inside herself, then pulling it out and eating it. I was a student. I told my first grade teacher that one of my mom's friends played with a snake for work. At first my teacher thought it was a euphemism I'd heard and asked me privately after class what I meant. I happily explained that she was a titty dancer, a phrase my mom used, who used a boa constrictor in her dance, and that I got to meet the snake backstage. I could tell she was obviously concerned, and somehow in my brain I thought telling her, but don't worry, she's very careful not to get her titties bit because the snake likes to eat mice. The parent-teacher conference ended up in a yelling match and a visit from CPS.